So I request you to keep the questions to the very end, please. This presentation is about California Freight Mobility Plan. I am Leela Immedisetti, the new acting CFMP program manager. As it
Leela,
says,
we can't see the presentation. You might want to flash it up again.
Oh my God. Okay. Just a second, please.
Okay.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, no worries.
Can you see now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Thanks. CFMP, California Freight Mobility Plan, more famously known as CFMP, is a comprehensive plan that governs immediate and long-range planning activities and capital investments with respect to freight movement. CFMP 2023 meets the new requirements of Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act, IIJA, and bipartisan infrastructure law. IIJA and bill requires every state to create a state freight plan every 4 years to be eligible for National Highway Freight Program funds. At the same time, California state requirements are to have a state freight plan and also for a state transportation agency. And also the agency shall establish a freight advisory committee to advise the agency on freight related priorities, issues, projects, and funding needs. That is you all, CFAC. Thanks for joining. Also, CFMP 2023 aligns with California Transportation Plan, CAPTI, Climate Action Plan for Transportation Infrastructure, State Rail Plan, and ITSP, Interregional Transportation Strategic Plan, and other related policies, both federal and state. It is compliant with both federal and state statutes, and CFMP 2023 is built upon the 2020 plan. It actually refines and updates the existing elements, the 10 elements, in addition to addressing the 7 new elements. SB 671 requires CTC to create CFC, California Freight Corridor Assessment, and CTC, the California Transportation Commission, identifies the clean freight corridors and that is the infrastructure required to support zero emission vehicle. In addition, CFMP 2023 also covers the new engagement activities. It conducted various interviews, AB 617 outreach, online surveys, various outreach activities. The CFMP 2023 also includes freight investment plan. Coming to the new content which is included in CFMP 2023, which is mainly focused, is the 7 new bill and IIJA elements, and they are composed of the truck parking facilities in the state, supply chain cargo flows, and inventory on commercial ports, findings and recommendations from any multi-state freight compacts if applicable, and the impacts of electronic commerce on freight infrastructure, and the consideration of military freight. Nevertheless, it also includes the strategies and goals to decrease the severity of impacts of extreme weather and natural disasters on freight mobility, and the impacts of freight movement on local air pollution, flooding, and stormwater runoff, and wild habitat loss. The new plan also has content which covers various topics that were already we've covered in the 2020 plan, as well as updated that, as well as included on topics related to COVID-19, supply chain issues, climate change, agricultural goods movements, and a study on marine highways and short line rail. The new content also covers the TCEP, that is Trade Corridor Enhancement Program, and also the plan is also contain the drafts findings from SB 671. I just want to emphasize that the TCEP Cycle Program 3 will be adopted by the Commission at the June 28th meeting. That means we'll be adding it at a later stage. This also, I also want to cover the point that the Federal Highway Administration has released a straight freight plan guidance, how to incorporate the 7 new elements just recently, early this year, that is Jan 2023. CFMP 2023 is built upon various outreach activities which was conducted during its generation. Along with that, we have increased a lot of outreach activities. There was intense outreach conducted, and we had we've been in continuous touch with CFAC and other freight stakeholders through a public participation process that included 8 public workshops, 4 focus groups, 4 Native Americans tribal listening sessions, presentations to various regional and state transportation planning committees, and various other engagement activities. CFMP's 2023 Chapters 5B lists all the various outreach efforts performed. Coming to the next steps, CFMP, the current one is expiring on July 2023. So, and FHWA needs a 60-day review period. With that said, we need to turn in the draft CFMP by May 23rd, 2023. For that, we have an intensive review process, and we request CFAC committee members and to review, and that would be released from April 25th all the way through May 12th, which is like a little over 2 weeks review period. Along with this, in the next steps, we continue our outreach efforts, and there's a continued engagement and coordination with CFAC, CTC, and FHWA. Request you all, whoever have not subscribed for the freight planning newsletter, please go ahead and subscribe to that, and do visit our web page. We have various new contents updated, and stay in touch. Thank you. Any questions, please? And I need somebody's help to read out the questions.
All right, I see that there's a question in the chat about the link does not work for the subscribe to the newsletter. So maybe that's something that we can share with the group.
Probably Allison can email to the whole team.
We can definitely look into that and put that as one of our follow-up items, is to share that link with the group.
Or you could, put it in the chat.
And then it looks like we have a question. So I'm a new CFAC member, so welcome. So can you explain what the outreach to CFAC for the CFMP looks like?
I request Jeff to pitch in. Jeff Monroe, if you're in here.
Yeah. This is our opportunity really to conduct some outreach for the CFMP, and like Leela said, we wanted to make sure that everyone is aware that the CFMP is coming out for review between April 25th through May 12th. So we wanted to relay that to everyone here. And it's good to note that the CFMP is built upon a lot of the material that the CFAC has already provided input on in the past. We've been working with the CFAC, I think, since 2018 on this plan. And there's a lot of material that we've asked the CFAC for input on, and which has been really essential to developing the plan. So I encourage everyone to look at the draft when it comes out on April 25th, and we look forward to your comments.
Right, then I see another question here from Rob Ball. So will CFAC members get a preview of CFAC document, or do we have to wait until the 24th?
We're going through a pretty extensive internal review process right now, and we want to make sure it's ready before we release it on April 25th. So that's the date that we're currently preparing on releasing it to the CFAC and to the public.
And there's another question on what types of major changes should we expect?
So we have, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
So we have, we've made some, so like Leela mentioned, there were 10 elements that we addressed in the past, which were required under the FAST Act. But the IIJA Bill Act requires 7 new elements on top of that. So we actually took the 2020 CFMP, which some of you may be familiar with, and we looked at the statutory requirements of IIJA and bill, and we created new content to meet the intent of those new elements. So there's some new material on the CFMP that specifically addresses the new requirements for the IIJA, and we're going to be when we send out the email, we'll be directing you to where the new material is that meets the IIJA requirements. But also, we've added a lot of new content regarding all the new outreach that we've done. We've done a significant amount of outreach to SB 671 communities, which are communities that are disproportionately affected by freight pollution. And we've also conducted a lot of outreach to other entities and stakeholders, which we've included. Also, we've included a lot of new material in the CFMP related to issues that are important to California. Like Leela mentioned, we have a extensive discussion on COVID-19, how that's affected the freight industry and supply chains in California. We talk about congestion at the ports that happened last year. And we talk about a whole host of issues that are important to California. We've also included an entire section on agriculture, for instance, since agriculture is such an important issue. And we have more discussion about warehousing. So there's actually a lot of new content in the CFMP that addresses, the IIJA, but also things that are important to Californians and the freight industry. So when we send out the notice, I think we're going to try to pinpoint those things so you can take a look at them and specifically comment on them. And of course, we really look forward to your input on the CFMP. That's going to make the plan stronger. So thank you, Marlon.
Yeah, thank you. And a couple of things that I really want to emphasize. First and foremost, really just wanted to thank our freight planning team and the collaboration that they've had with multiple stakeholders, including our districts, in pulling this all together. And hopefully there's an appreciation for the effort that it takes to actually get this to the finish line. As was mentioned, our goal is to actually submit this draft plan to our FHWA partners. So that's going to be around May the 23rd, when we got to get it over to them for a 60-day review. Basically our current plan is good up until July the 23rd. And so thinking about all the moving pieces that we have to manage in the middle of when FHWA is going to be reviewing our plan, we're also going to have the California Transportation Commission that's going to be adopting the trade corridor enhancement program, which is a component of the freight investment program, the FIP. And then that basically gives us access to our federal freight dollars. And so when the commission adopts that at their at their June meeting, June 28th, it's going to be pretty much like right in the middle, the better like half of the part of the review period from FHWA. And that would normally, I think, cause some issues. But I do want to give FHWA a lot of credit. They're working with us to make sure that we have a plan that gets reviewed in a timely manner. And we're working with them just very closely to make sure that there's agreement on our schedule. And so our goal is to make sure that we get this 2023 plan approved. So there isn't any disruption in the freight dollars. And so, as a result, when the TSEP program is adopted, if there are projects that are able to come in for allocation at the August meeting, our goal is just to make sure that there's no interruptions in the program. But having said all that, it does just create a lot of risk with our schedule. And normally we would strive to have more time for all of our partners to review, including the CFAC membership. But we're having to try to be much more efficient with our schedule to be able to get this to the finish line. And so I just want to just make that point, and just the team's just been doing a great job, but there are a lot of things that need to happen before the draft goes out. So in any ordinary year or cycle when we're updating our CFMP, our goal is to maximize opportunities for our partners, including you all, to review the plan, provide comments, and we did streamline our schedule to try to maximize that as much as we can within the constraints that we have. The other thing that I want to point out as well is the SB 671 report that the commission is working on, which is going to identify those critical zero emission corridors. And we certainly think that that's going to make our plan that much better. And so we are coordinating with the commission to get some early content. But it is in statute that we have the 671 report, included into our freight plan. So we are doing what we can to get as much as that material in there, recognizing that the commission isn't going to be, bringing a draft report to their commissioners until August, and then finalizing the plan in October. So there's just a lot of stuff that we're doing on the back end to really make this plan the best plan that it can be within the time constraints that we have. And so I just want to give a lot of credit to our team. There's just a lot of behind the scenes things that have happened working with the commission, working with our executive management here at Caltrans, working with CalSTA, but also working with FHWA to make sure that we're all on the same page. So.
Thank you, Marlon. We did have another question in the chat. Jeff and Leela, is that table that was shared on the screen earlier something that could be shared with the group?
Yes, that would be part of the email when we release the draft CFMP. That is further guidance to make their review process easier. The table which lists what are all the new components of the CFMP which is introduced, especially the 7 new elements, the IIJA elements, and where they are at, which page numbers, including the page numbers and the chapters. Yeah.
And I think we could include that in the email to the CFAC members.
We will.
That crosswalk. Yeah.
The crosswalk too, that I defer to Jeff and Riley's team. Yeah.
So I also want to encourage our CFAC members. We're about 5 minutes ahead of schedule right now. If you have a question you'd like to ask, feel free to unmute yourself and speak up. We also have another question in the chat. Can you explain the critical zero emission corridors you referenced?
So that's part of SB 671.
Oh, go ahead, Leela.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. You're fine. No, you're fine. Go ahead.
So CTC's, SB 671, the California Freight Corridor Assessment, they are listing 6 corridors. Jeff, please correct me if I'm wrong. And I could bring up this slide if that's more easier. And that's what their study is listing. And that is the study, if that's your question. Can you explain the critical zero emission corridors reference? That is what the reference is for. Am I correct, Jeff? Do you want to pitch in any more, or Marlon?
Yeah, I would say that SB 671, that was a piece of legislation that passed, and it requires, I believe it passed in 2021, or I may be mistaken about that, but it requires the California Transportation Commission to take the lead on creating a clean freight corridor assessment. And I believe that's due to the legislature by December 1st of 2023. So at the end of this year. And this assessment is supposed to identify clean freight corridors in the state. These are corridors that will be proposed to be, corridors that will be turned into like, they'll be used to implement clean freight infrastructure and initiatives and policies and programs. So the assessment is going to identify these corridors in the state. There's 6 of them, and it's going to propose a list of zero emission infrastructure projects along those corridors that will be used to that will support clean freight operations on those corridors. And I think the assessment will also go into the barriers that the industry faces regarding implementing clean freight technologies on those corridors and in the state. And also it's going to look at equity as well, how these clean freight corridors could be used to relieve the pressures that the freight industry puts on those types of communities. Yeah, so they have already identified the six clean freight corridors in the state, and there's a working group that's working on this. It's I-5, I-80, SR-99, I-15, I-40, and I-10. But the CTC, like I said, is leading this effort, and it's something we could consider as asking the CTC to present on this project because they're the experts on this. Clearly, we're taking the information that they're giving us, and we'll be incorporating that into the plan. So that's what I can say about the Clean Freight Corridor assessment now. I would suggest we invite maybe the CTC to present on this at a future CFAC.
Actually, they even presented in their last March CTC, I believe. Am I correct, Jeff, or the previous one? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was the last meeting
March.
at the March meeting, correct? And what we can probably do is, since the CTC, the California Transportation Commission, since they're leading this effort, we can provide a link to their website, which includes all the background, includes all the meetings and workshops that they had. So I think that's something that we can make available. I think there was a question that we had missed that I wanted to make sure that we didn't miss it. So it says, can anyone identify an example of when CFAC provided input that affected a freight-related state decision? Was that through the CFMP ?
Well, yeah, I mean, I could say that the CFAC was very instrumental in creating our goals, objectives, and policies within the plan. We had a meeting with the CFAC in San Bernardino before the pandemic. It was in person. And we went over all the strategies and policies together, and we got a lot of great input that was inputted into the plan. There are several examples, I think, where the CFAC has provided input, but that's the most prominent one that comes to my mind right now.
Okay, and I see in the chat, so Hannah, thanks for providing that link. So Hannah Walter, she's actually the lead for CTC for the 671 report. So I appreciate you providing that information. All right, and we also see another comment here. I'm not sure if it's a question. It looks like it's a comment. So 58 needs to be added as an extension of I-40 to I-5. So that one sounds familiar, that we've heard that one before. So we can take that into account. And then when will the draft 671 be available for public comment?
In August.
August. Okay, there we go. Any other final?
Yeah, Marlon, this is Kerry Cartwright, Port of Los Angeles.
Hey, Carrie.
Hey, I want to verbalize my request. The request is to develop a protocol for identifying and adding projects in the CFMP list. That's very critical for our grant applications, whether state or federal, and actually whether infrastructure and or zero emission related. We don't have a formal process. It's kind of ad hoc, and it's always uncertain, what's happening with the conveyance of our projects to the MPO and then ultimately to Caltrans. And so I think we need to develop a formal process for that going forward, so that we can have projects incorporated in between the statutorily required updates, which is, I believe it's 4 years as part of SB or AB 14, I think it was, or 5 years. And then through IIJA, it's 4 years, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, I think it's important for that process to be established.
Yeah. So, and I see we're over our time, but maybe we can make some time up. I'm not sure if we need to take a break. I know we have one built into the schedule.
No, that's okay. We can go ahead and just skip over it.
Okay. It feels like we just got started. Okay. Thanks, guys. So just a couple of things and then we'll get into our next item. But yeah, regarding the project list, I know this is something that we've talked about before, and we'll be more than happy to bring it back to another meeting. We, at least for the time being, within the CFMP, our project list in the FIP is basically the Trade Corridor Enhancement Program. So because really the goal of the FIP is to make sure that we're basically providing a list of projects to access the freight national dollars.
Yeah, and actually those are just the NHFP funds, so it's a very limited amount.
Correct. So I think what you're describing is something a little bit more broader.
Yep.
So we are working on a process that not only captures freight types of projects, but also other projects, whether it be related to climate action or active transportation. So our strategic investment planning office is leading that effort. We're just now starting to get that effort going, because as we start thinking about how we're going to implement the CAPDI, so the Climate Action Plan for Transportation Infrastructure, it talks about us being able to prioritize investments. And so we want to make sure that we have a solid methodology for being able to do that. And I think a key strategy is, as you're suggesting, is having a project list that's transparent, and that we can basically manage. So yeah, we'll be more than happy to maybe come back and talk about that process, and more than happy to get CFAC involved in that process.
Yeah, because the current list is about 5 years old, so a
Yeah.
lot of projects have already construction or been completed, so they're not relevant anymore to to funding programs. The other thing I wanted to mention as a corollary too is a process for outreach for the next solicitation by FHWA for alternative fuel corridors. Because we had submitted some, I think, through SCAG, and ultimately did make it into the recommendation or the requests promulgated from Caltrans to FHWA. So if that process could be a little more open and a little more organized in the future.
Sure. More than happy to come back with that. Okay. With that said, we'll get into our next agenda item, and that is the agency roundtable. So Avital, are you going to be giving CalSTA's update?
Hi, Marlon. Hi, everyone. I'm actually going to defer to Eric Fredericks, who is our freight policy manager, to give the CalSTA update. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Welcome, Eric.
Nice to see all of you, and hello, Marlon. as Avital just mentioned, I'm our freight policy manager now at CalSTA. I'm on permanently since as of January. So grateful for the opportunity to be with you all in a new capacity. Since the last CFAC meeting, we also have a new Undersecretary, Mark Tollefson, who joined us from the governor's office. As many of you have worked with him, he's well versed in freight issues, as he was one of the leads in the office for supply chain issues over the last few years. And I also wanted to welcome Lisa Vitale, who's on our call today, as our new transportation policy analyst, and she'll be assisting hopefully many of you with managing the port and freight infrastructure program. Speaking of that program we call PFIP, I'm sure you're all very interested to know when those awards will be announced, but unfortunately we don't have a date selected yet. We plan to announce later this month, and we are well aware of some key federal infrastructure program funding application deadlines upcoming toward the end of the month. So just wanted you all to be aware that that's on our radar. Last month, the governor announced a new letter of intent between California and Japan to support port decarbonization and the development of green shipping corridors. And CalSTA was one of the signatories of the letter. And in that, we noted that we will be supporting green shipping corridors, port decarbonization, and deployment of zero emission transportation through our PFIP program. We're also will prioritize transportation investment in projects that reduce greenhouse gas emissions through the Climate Action Plan for Transportation Initiative, or CAPTI, and also advocate for federal infrastructure investment and Jobs Act, or bipartisan investment law funding for green port projects. In addition, the Japanese ministry, along with GoBiz, California Air Resources Board, and the California Energy Commission, who I see are all represented today, will share expertise and best practices on critical efforts to cut port-related pollution, including strategies for offshore wind development and zero-emission fuels and infrastructure. And that's all I have, if anybody has any questions.
Do we have any questions for Eric? I appreciate the update, Eric.
I'm not seeing any, Marlon, in the chat.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, next update is California Transportation Commission.
Hi, I can give the update.
Thank you, Hannah.
Hi. There's really just two things I wanted to share. One is that at the May 17th through 18th commission meeting, I think Caltrans, although Marlon, I might be wrong, but I think Caltrans District 11 will be presenting be presenting a white paper that really memorializes some of the work that SANDAG and ICTC and District 11 did with companies from Mexico, truck companies from Mexico. And they worked together their input about the impact of the transition to zero emission freight on the Baja California region. So that they should be presenting that at the May meeting. That will be really interesting because they wrote a white paper about that. And then, so we were involved with them in that effort from the SB 671 side, which is kind of why I'm bringing that up. And then we have a few, so for SB 671, the Clean Freight Corridor Assessment that was mentioned before, we've done the first few items that are required in the bill, but there's like 8 more items that are required, and we're going to be trying to work on those so that we can bring those items to the commission at the June meeting, and then a full draft of the entire thing for commissioners at the August meeting. And when we bring it to commissioners in August, we'll be posting it online so that the public can comment on it also. But the topics that we have left are like the weight of battery electric trucks on roads and bridges, methods to avoid displacement, barriers and recommended solutions, microgrids, and the benefits of the transition. So there's a few things we're still working on. And that's it. And I just wanted to say thanks to Jeff and his team for working together with us on the CFMP. Thanks.
All right, much appreciated, Hannah. Thank you so much. Any questions for Hannah?
I'm not seeing anything in the chat, Marlon, or any hands.
Okay, thank you. Okay, federal highways. Do we have anyone from federal highways?
Yes, here I am. Can you hear me, Marlon?
Yes, we can, and you're still here.
Okay. Yes.
We're gonna miss you,
Well,
Patrick.
relatively speaking, Marlon, I was going to ask you earlier, but you already touched on a subject that I was going to discuss, and Marlon's reference is that I have been promoted within the Federal Highway Administration. I'm still with Federal Highways, so it's okay that I'm here, Marlon, as a favor to Antonio Johnson, who is still the director here in California for Planning, Environment, and Right-of-Way. He's out this week. I agreed to come here today along with Michael Morris, the Senior Community Planner. Today is actually my first day, Marlon, as the Director of Planning, Environment, and Finance for the state of Pennsylvania. But it's past 5 p.m. Eastern, so they don't know that I'm doing this. It's okay. So anyway, number one, most important thing, of course, Marlon, you appreciate your comments about the submission of the California Freight Mobility Plan to allow for federal review, and also the coordination that you've been doing with other FHWA staff, primarily Antonio, regarding the approval of the FIP as well, that we understand is going to happen in June. So I know you've been working with him on that. So that was the number one priority from our perspective, was to avoid any lapse in availability of Federal Highway Administration freight funds, obviously to be avoided if at all possible. So we appreciate the efforts that are being undertaken both by Caltrans, CalSTA, CTC in concert, working to get that through. That was actually a topic that we addressed in the federal planning finding this past December as well. It was the recommendation to move in that direction. So we appreciate that. So just a couple of things to mention, as state staff is aware, the bill compliant guidance for the state freight plan and the state advisory committee came out in January. We've already met on that before. We are trying to, at our level, to be as supportive as we can, as we always are at the Federal Highway Administration and California Division. Some of the ways that we're working with our partners here in California include that we're going to be, we've already started by coordinating a state-focused freight planning effort. It's going to include Caltrans, CTC, and CalSTA later on this year. We're going to bring our national experts from our FHWA Resource Center into the state. We did this last month for a different topic, performance measures. It's going to be some state-focused freight planning, not for the locals this time, but we look forward to doing that again in the future. And then, of course, as we know, that there are these state-specific, freight-specific federal funds that are used. But I just want to highlight that there are other funding sources that are being used for freight-related activities, and many more that are becoming available. So just a few examples. There are state SPR funds, state planning research funds, are being used right now for a multi-MPO study of charging infrastructure in a 3 MPO area with SJCOG, SACOG, and MTC. And one of the new funding sources out there is the new charging funds. This is the discretionary grants portion. Besides NEVI, which is the programmatic one, we have a discretionary program out there now, which the state can apply for as well. So we're looking forward to seeing applications there. So we're very mindful that while we have a lot of funding sources, some of them are definitely related to freight. Some of them are state focused. A lot are available to the local jurisdictions and regions. And we want to make sure that we work with you as we move forward. This is a very busy time for us at the Federal Highway Administration. These discretionary grants are a big new lift for us. I know it's not freight related, but the Safe Streets for All, for example, a new program, there are 50 new discretionary grants. And those don't involve the state. That's a new undertaking for us. So there's a lot of work for us on our end, and we appreciate the opportunity to work with our partners here in California as we move forward. So thanks again for the update, Marlon and other staff on the state freight plan. We look forward to getting that, receiving it, and working with you.
All right, thank you so much. And yeah, Patrick, I just wanted to thank you for your leadership over the years, and I just wanted to congratulate you on your new role.
Thank you very much. I was in Pennsylvania last week, and it seems wonderful, and I'm looking at a different Capitol building out the window of my office. So, but thank you, Marlon.
All right, thank you so much. All right.
Hey, Marlon, there was a question here from Rob Ball, and this is actually directed to Hannah. When will there be an opportunity to comment on the 671 plan?
That you can comment on the entire draft once it's done at the August meeting, commission meeting, and also when we post it online in August. Let me look, and I'll put in the chat the specific dates of that meeting, so you kind of have a better time frame of when within August. But also I can put my email in the chat, and if you're interested, just reach out to me about being added to our work group, because we routinely present everything that we're doing to that work group as we finish drafts. So if you want to see what we've done so far, or what we're going to present in our next work group meeting, then you might want to join that work group. We also have an SB 671 website, and it has a lot of our past materials posted on it. And you can comment on it anytime by either commenting in one of our work group meetings or just sending me an email. So I'll put my email and the link to the SB 671 website in the chat, and I'll find those August dates and put them in there too.
Thank you, Hannah. Much appreciated. And I see, Eric, you had shared some of the information about the Green Shipping Corridors letter of intent between California and Japan. So appreciate you sharing that. All right. Any other questions? Okay, I'll go ahead and give the Caltrans update. So there are three things that I want to cover. First is the notice of funding opportunities, and I can work with our team to share some of the resources about these programs. You know, I think there are 21 different federal programs that we're tracking, and makes it's quite the exercise, to keep track of everything. So I think there's some information that we can share post meeting. But in the meantime, I can cover, I think, some of the main items that we're tracking, especially as it relates to freight. So I know that there's a NOFO that was released March 14th on the charging and fueling infrastructure program. This is a new program from EJA, and applications are due at the end of May. There's about $700 million in funding that's available. And we did do a call for letters of support and partnership on March 20th. And so that was sent to our district offices, MPOs, RTPAs, CalCog, as well as the Rural County Task Force. And so those requests are due April the 21st, 2023. Just so you all know, Caltrans, we are looking at 1 to 2 applications in partnership with the California Energy Commission. and with other state agencies to support charging and hydrogen fueling for trucks along major interstate corridors. So the project details, we're still working those out, but we'll be more than happy to maybe share at a future meeting. Also, we're following NOFOs that are going to be coming out probably in the next few months. And so there's the MDPG, which is comprised of the infra program, mega, and then also the rural program. So we're expecting that to come out very shortly in addition to the Protect program. We're anticipating the Reconnecting Communities pilot program as well to come out in the next month or two. And then over the summer, the Bridge Investment Program. So the U.S. DOT Maritime Administration, so MARAD, has 2 discretionary grant notices of opportunity coming out. So the first is the Port Infrastructure Development Program, and then there's also the United States Marine Highway Program. So these applications are due on April the 28th. And if you're interested in more details, you can reach out to Allison or a freight team and they can provide that information. In anticipation of the Protect program, discretionary NOFO that we expect to come out. So our air quality and climate change team, so they are partnering with our investment planning team in headquarters as well as the districts to do some information and brainstorming. So given that we anticipate the NOFO to come out in the spring, at this time we're basically reviewing 4 climate adaptation focused grant categories and associated eligible activities while proactively identifying early project ideas and potential nominations for when the NOFO is released. Port facilities, including facilities that connect ports to other modes of transportation, these are eligible programs under the Protect program. And so this builds, I think, some potential for Caltrans to partner with other port authorities on adaptation projects that benefit goods movement. And we can also provide some of the information regarding this program and eligible activities. And then lastly, well, actually 2 other items I want to cover. We are updating in collaboration with the Commission the Regional Transportation Planning Guidelines. The RTP guidelines for MPOs will be released for a 30-day public comment period in May. So we suggest that RTPAs review the document and provide comments as the RTP guidelines for the RTPAs will be similar text to the MPOs. Yeah, so we've been working with the Commission, and Commission, they're the ones that actually have ownership of the RTP guidelines, but we are working closely with them as we're developing them on behalf of the Commission. And we have 8 working groups that are meeting right now. That we expect those groups to be meeting through the end of October of this year. And our RTPAs will have the opportunity to comment from now through August for consideration for the draft 1 of the RTP guidelines. Outside of the 8 working groups, Caltrans and CTC will be working to schedule a standalone meeting to focus on specific touch points for the RTP guidelines. And our plan is to update the RTPA version of the guidelines, which will be discussed and coordinated with the RTPAs at the Rural County Task Force meetings through the spring and the summer. And then lastly, our Sustainable Transportation Planning Grants. So if you all recall, at the beginning of this year, May 12th, Caltrans, we released our 2023-24 Sustainable Transportation Planning Grant guide for call for applications, which were due March the 9th. So all of our applicants that submitted applications, we got about 162. which is basically about 65.3 million in terms of what the requests were. So there were 7 strategic planning partnership applications requesting about 4.4 million. There were 123 sustainable communities competitive grants requesting about 41.8 million. And then we have about a 28 climate adaptation it's a mouthful. 28 climate adaptation applications requesting about 19 million. So if you all recall, from the state budget, we have about $50 million in climate adaptation funds for planning grants. So we sort of anticipated not having enough this cycle. To be able to use up the rest of that capacity, we will be going out with a second round. We just haven't determined a date. But we all encourage our partners, including our freight partners, if there are adaptation types of planning grants that you want to submit, I think this will be a great opportunity. And we do anticipate late summer making the announcements, and then the next call will be in the fall of 2023. So that concludes my comments. Any questions?
Hi, Marlon. Yeah, we have a hand up here from Matt. Matt, go ahead and unmute yourself. And I'm not seeing your last name. If you want to introduce yourself, that'd be great too.
Oh, this is Matt Peterson, CEO of Lacey and chair of our Transportation Electrification Partnership. I don't know if this is the right time. I just wanted Jack, who's my alternative for Lacey, to share 30 seconds on our recent 710 study we just did and did a webinar on charging infrastructure locations for zero-emission dredge trucks.
Yep. So Matt, we have the next item will be a roundtable for CFAC members. So I think that would be the most appropriate time right after this.
Okay, thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
And we'll put you in the queue.
So let's see. I see a question here, Marlon. It said, did you say you are coordinating with RTPAs on the guidelines through the Rural County Task Force?
Yeah, so I could have been a little bit clearer. So there's basically 2 different components to the guidelines. There's the MPO version and then the RTPA version. And so for the RTPA version, which covers most of our rural counties, we're working with the Rural County Task Force, but there will be other, I think, opportunities, other workshops that are going to be scheduled. So my apologies, I didn't make that clear. And then the MPOs, we're primarily working through other means to get their input as well.
We have another question in the chat. I believe this one is directed towards Eric. It says, is it possible to get a list of CalSTA's working groups on federal funding opportunities?
Oh, yes, perhaps Giles, I think you might still be on. If you're available, you might be able to chime in on those working groups. Not sure if you're still on, Giles. At any rate, yes, we can coordinate with Caltrans on getting those working groups out. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Is there anything that I'm missing, Riley?
No, Marlon, I'm not seeing anything else.
Okay. All right, and then last but not least, we have GoBiz. Anyone from GoBiz on?
Yes, Trey here. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we are. Thank you.
Are you able to see me?
Yep.
Great, awesome. We're testing out a new system here in the WebEx. So good afternoon, everyone. Happy to join and provide the update from the GoBiz, or Governor's Office Business and Economic Development. My name is Trey Bradley. I'm Deputy Director, Sustainable Freight and Supply Chain. I will not provide update on Japan. I think a lot of other folks covered kind of, the work of Japan and GoBiz and CalSTA and all folks over there with the MOU arrangements and also the MOUs that the ports made directly. The updates that we have is actually sitting in the room next. We have some new staffing within our office, including supply chain program managers started today. Angela Shepard to join our team. Some folks may be familiar with Angela Shepard as well, especially those here in the transportation space. So we're very excited to have Angela join the team here. The primary update that I actually will just be providing today, and I'll try to keep it brief just for the sake of time, is solely related to implementation of funds that were appropriated to us in the budget, given the most recent budget cycle. And those were 30 million in funds directed to GoBiz to go to two programs specifically. One of them, a small pool of 2.1 million funds for general funds that improve operations at California's ports and across supply chain, and then larger $27 million funds that will be available competitively to California's 5 containerized ports, which include Los Angeles, Long Beach, Oakland, Hueneme, and Port of San Diego. And so we are in the phases of beginning to do the grant cycle and roll out those funds this summer. In advance of rolling out the funds, we, as required in statute, are to have an MOU signed by the 5 containerized ports in California, basically outlining their intent and, to achieve interoperability as defined by the statute, and also, responsibly coordinate on data system development that supports not only alignment between themselves, but alignment between the partners who interface with the ports and all of the stakeholders that all of us actually work through across supply chain. And so it's a really good opportunity. We will have the MOU signing planned for April 26th of this month with the 5 ports, and we have come to a final version of the MOU. And we also will be going out with press release and also public information relative to the MOU signing, and for all folks to find out more information online. Of course, I just wanted to say that because I see some of the folks who are from these ports in the chat and attendees, and of course also from our California Association from CAPA who represents all the ports in California. Just wanted to say how great it has been to work with the ports on this effort and how excited and ecstatic we are, how this can really be an opportunity to elevate such a collaborative effort on a topic such as data and supply chain and its ability to really move forward and advance and address some challenges, both from efficiency and also from an operation standpoint, but also from climate perspective, from an emissions reduction standpoint, and also, to align with potential federal funding opportunities. Also, it's been really great to partner with those at the federal level and the efforts that they have really led out on data, including the USDOT on flow, as well as USDOT and MARAD and their effort on port community systems, and the FMC on the Ocean Shipping Reform Act and their relative data proceedings that we have coming up. So there's a lot going on in the world of data, and it's really an exciting opportunity that California will essentially be, in a way, one of the first places to put forward this type of MOU between ports on data right here in the state for the supply chain. So that is the update that I have solely, and happy to answer any questions. And of course, you can always reach out and I will place my email in the chat box. Thank you.
All right, much appreciated. Thank you so much. Do we have any questions?
Nothing in the chat so far, and no hands raised.
All right, with that said, I think we are 5 minutes ahead of schedule here. So we can move on to our next item, which is CFAC member roundtable.
Thanks, Marla. Let me just prime the CFAC members for this. So You guys should have received an email letting you all know that if you want to share anything during this item, this is the time. It's a great chance to information share, maybe provide information on some of your current efforts. So this is the time to do it. If you would like to share, you can go ahead and raise your hand, and then I'll just start calling you out in order. So first one I see here is Jack Symington. So Jack, thanks for raising your hand and taking, being the first volunteer.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. My name is Jack Symington, Senior Program Manager for Transportation at LACY. We're the Los Angeles Clean Tech Incubator, a nonprofit that supports building an inclusive green economy. As Matt mentioned earlier, we just finished a California Energy Commission funded blueprint grant, planning grant for medium and heavy duty zero emission infrastructure focused on identifying good locations and a good framework for selecting locations for drayage truck depots along the I-710 corridor in Los Angeles County. I-710 is certainly part of the SB 671 Clean Freight Corridor Assessment. So we're excited to contribute some insight to that process as well. But we had a webinar last week. I think some folks were able to attend, and I'm happy to share the recording and then slides that highlighted all of our findings and recommendations with this larger group as well, if some haven't received it. But at a high level, we were looking at where truck traffic already is in some of the industrial areas, looking with the resources provided to us by the utilities where there is adequate capacity on the grid to support these charging depots. And then we worked with community groups to get their input and have their decision making at the center when thinking about where to put some of these charging stations. Final process was selecting 4 to 10 different sites and providing an estimate of the capital costs for what it's going to take to turn those into depots of requisite size. The high level number that we found for investing just in the 710 corridor area to reach 40% zero emission trucks by 2028, which is LACY and TEP's goal, to be upwards of 280 million. And then to reach the governor's goal and the Port's Clean Air Action Plan target of 100% by 2035 would require about 700 million over the next 12 years. So happy to share more details about the process and some specifics on the sites. LACY has been in communication with the Port of Los Angeles and Metro to move forward some of these options to implementation as well, and certainly with some of the federal grant money coming through, now is the time. So happy to pause and see if there's any questions and can provide those materials as a follow-up as well.
All right, thank you, Jack.
Yeah, if you could just send us send those materials to us. You could either send it to Allison or the CFAC email. We'll make sure to pass those along to the group when we follow up with the materials.
Great, thank you.
Any other member updates? Andrea.
Hello, thank you. This is Andrea Hoff, Senior Project Manager for the Otay Mesa East Port of Entry project at the San Diego Association of Governments, or SANDAG. Thanks for the opportunity to provide a few updates. I wanted to follow up on Hannah Walters' brief update on the zero emission freight white paper that will be going to the CTC for the May meeting. We should have all of the items to you, Hannah, by the end of the day, and if all goes well. And that would be a SANDAG representative giving that presentation in the May meeting.
Sorry, I meant to give you a thumbs up on
Nope, we're in tune. We're also working on a sustainable freight implementation strategy. There's currently a public survey out to kind of look at some of the recommended projects and programs in that sustainable freight strategy. We also, like Jack in Los Angeles, were awarded a grant to create a regional blueprint for heavy duty and medium duty zero emission infrastructure in a blueprint type regional approach, which we are currently undertaking. I'd like to provide a couple updates on our exciting third border crossing that is being developed in the San Diego region, Otay Mesa East. We are in the process of negotiating our design contract. So we should have a designer on board to help design the facility, which we're really excited about. In addition to that, we've been working with FHWA and would like to thank them for not only visiting our site recently, but continuing to work with us on ironing out some details about the various grants and funding opportunities we're looking to finance the project with. We will be in attendance at the Coalition for America's Gateways and Trade Corridors, or CAGIT, annual meeting in Washington, D.C. I will be attending along with Hannah Stern, our federal government representative, and we'll be highlighting the importance of freight for those folks in D.C., as well as highlighting Otay Mesa East. And then finally, we are working with some students, as we do every semester, to do some, they're the cross-border consultants through San Diego State. They're a group of graduate students from the US and Mexico, and this time around they'll be doing some supply chain research for us so that we can produce some handy follow the freight brochures, similar to what CAGIT produces. They sort of follow a product through the supply chain to kind of help people understand the importance of freight. So we're excited to be wrapping up work with our students in May. Followed up, and then we'll follow up with the creation of some interesting brochures. And then just for clarification, the sustainable freight strategy, Mariela has chimed in, is also for Imperial County as well. So it's a San Diego and Imperial County joint effort there. And those are updates from the Sandag side. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you, Andrea. Really appreciate it. Is Casey's hand up?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
I was wondering, could I screen share something real quickly? It might be a faster way for me to present what I wanted to share about what we've been working on. I don't know if that works or not. But
Sure, yeah, you can try. There should be a share button there at the bottom near your video.
can you see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is, my name is Casey Emoto. I'm the Chief Engineering and Program Delivery Officer here at Santa Clara Valley Transportation Authority here in San Jose, California. But Santa Clara County has been working with San Benito County most recently to try to build a new trade corridor route that connects from 101 over to Pacheco Pass. So where we ended up right now is on this screen, you can see where there's like a new envelope for a potential corridor, and we've submitted for a RAISE rural planning grant. This is our second cycle. We submitted last time, didn't get selected, but we got really good feedback from the federal agencies and staff, and we're encouraged to resubmit, so we did. And the main emphasis for the federal funding that we submitted for is to develop a tier 1 environmental document for this area, to identify a new connection from 101 over towards 152, 156 in Pacheco Pass. The current 152, if you're familiar with the area, is a 2-lane roadway with somewhere upwards of 100 driveways and an 11-mile stretch with commute traffic, goods movement traffic, recreational traffic, and local traffic on what was a rural route, 1 lane in each direction. So this is a study that we've been working on for quite a while. The purple boxes, which are kind of important that are on this map in San Benito County, are redevelopment or development zones that the County of San Benito has identified. And so That's part of the emphasis for this. They have potential uses like proving grounds for automated vehicles in one of those purple boxes and things like that, that even we in Santa Clara County, even though we're next door to them, didn't realize those things were being discussed down there, right? And in terms of TCEP, at this intersection of 101 and 25 through Santa Clara County local measure funds and TCEP funds, we have the first phase for the improvement at the 101-25 interchange, which would be like the western terminus of this new route, right? And so it's 100% funded through those sources, local Santa Clara County sources and SB1 funds. And so we're continuing to develop this corridor piece by piece, working with San Benito County. So I just wanted to share that. And as part of the new, this $5 million, upwards of $5 million grant submittal that we submitted for, we're including clean truck charging stations and those sort of opportunities as part of this new corridor. So we're kind of in the early phases, but just wanted to share this. Thanks.
Thanks for sharing, Casey.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Let's see, we have Rob Ball. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Just real quick, PERNCOG is completing its medium duty, heavy duty, zero emission vehicle infrastructure plan, blueprint. So that's out for public review right now. I just uploaded the link in there. So those of you who are starting, here's one that was done by a consultant, and you may be able to get some ideas from that. Also, we are beginning to wrap up our sustainable goods movement plan called the Kern Area Regional Goods Movement Operations Plan, or CARGO study, and that should be hopefully done by the end of June. And we're very interested in participating in the climate adaptation program. We have an application submitted for the Tehachapi Pass corridor, which includes State Route 58. And along that corridor are 3 inland port proposals, one in Shafter in Northwest Bakersfield, one in Mojave, and then the new BNSF facility over in Barstow. And so that Highway 58 corridor between I-40 and I-5, which already has, going over the Tehachapi Pass, 20% more trucks than are going over I-80 in the Northern Sierra, is a very important corridor for the state to be looking at as a clean truck corridor. So that's all I have at this point. Thanks.
Thank you, Rob. All right. Michelle Stewart, did you have something to share?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, apologies. Actually, I didn't mean to come off mute there.
No worries. Okay, so I'm not seeing any other hand. Oh, Andre, please go ahead.
Hey, good afternoon, folks. This is Andre Freeman. I'm the Freight Policy Manager at CARB. I did want to give folks a heads up if you haven't participated in these upcoming CARB efforts yet. We have a couple of big items coming up later this month at our April 27th board hearing. Our board will be hearing a proposed advanced clean fleets regulation. I know a lot of people on the line have participated in that effort, but for new folks, that will be our next zero emission truck regulation, where we'll be using it to transition both the medium and heavy duty truck fleet in California to zero. So if you're not familiar with that, I'll put some information into the chat. And again, we have our board meeting at the end of this month. That'll be one of the main items for discussion. And later on this month, we also have a couple of different funding program events coming up. One will be the kickoff of our next year's funding process for our low carbon transportation initiatives. as well as our air quality improvement programs. Not all of those are focused on the freight sector, but there is a lot of freight funding available through those programs. So if you haven't participated in that effort, please do. It'll be going over upcoming grant funding opportunities and really providing you an opportunity to provide input on where we should spend our funding for the fiscal year 23-24. So if you have any questions, again, I'll put links in the chat, but that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Andre. Appreciate that. All right. Anybody else? Okay. So if you would like as well, if something comes to your mind, you can go ahead and follow up with us after the meeting. If you want us to share something, we can also insert it into the meeting minutes and post some materials there for the group. Okay. So I think that we can move on then, Marlon. If you'd like to.
Sounds like a plan. Okay, so our next agenda item, and we're a little bit ahead of schedule here, is public comment. So if you all recall, I think if you raise your hand or put them in a comment, is that the process, Riley?
Yes, Marlon. So the attendees now can, if they would like to raise their hand or in the chat box, enter a comment on any of the items that we have covered here today. We can go ahead and get to that. And if they would like to speak on something as well, we can unmute them and allow them to speak on something.
Okay, thank you.
Not seeing anything just yet. Give it a moment. Allison, are you seeing anything on your side? Just want to double check.
Oh, something just came. Oh, but it's not a question, but thank you, Andre, for sharing that link with the group. Yeah, no, I'm not seeing anyone wishing to speak.
Okay.
Okay. Yep.
Is there no public comments at this time?
All right. So I think this was a very efficient meeting. So really appreciate all of our speakers today, and I also appreciate all of the CFAC members for sharing information from your respective agencies as well. So thank you so much. Yeah, in terms of action items, do we have any captured action items, Riley? I know there were probably some things that we're going to follow up on in the meeting minutes, links.
Right. Yeah. So we did just shoot that off to you, but I can go ahead and read those. So a few action items that we were here able to capture today is to share the CFMP mailing lists, link with the group that includes the freight newsletter, share the California Freight Mobility Plan 2023 draft with the group. That will be, I believe, in April 25th. That will be released to the group. Provide a link to the CTC webpage for SB 671 report information to the group. Hannah did drop that in the chat, but we will make sure also to send that out as well in an email. Get a list of CALSTA's working groups on federal funding opportunities and share that list with the group. We'll make sure to coordinate and follow up with Eric Fredericks over at CALSTA for that and then send that out. Also I have here, share a link to the last, so I'll share the information from Jack and his team as well. And I believe that's it. And does anybody, am I missing anything from the group? Any members would like to add anything to this action item list? Okay.
All right. Hearing none. Yeah. Okay. So I think we will adjourn the meeting. And again, I appreciate all of the participants, and please in the next, I think, 2 weeks, be looking out for the CFMP draft. So looking forward to seeing all of your comments. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks all.